How's it going, guys? So it's been a while since I wrapped Mark in his Magical Camera of Awesomeness, and as you can imagine, quite a bit has happened. I wrote, illustrated, and released a whole nother picture book titled The Cat Who Couldn't Care Less. I sold copies of the books that I do have at many outdoor markets, which is a pretty interesting topic to get into, and I think that's going to be the subject of this video. I wrote the follow-up to Mark and his Magical Camera of Awesomeness. I also wrote a novella that is not geared towards kids, so I'm thinking about creating another imprint, which will have a little bit more of the pulpy stuff. So where to start? So for about a year, I've been doing these outdoor markets, and I've had some pretty interesting results. Like everything else, it was a learning experience to say the least. Luckily, I was always able to make a profit of some kind, even if it was pretty modest. So far, I've been able to do 2 markets twice in the last year, and they are vastly different experiences. I've also done a couple of one-offs here and there that were pretty interesting, but yet they sort of aligned within what I am theorizing is the general structure of these markets. All in all, I have a much better sense as to what to look for when signing up for these outdoor markets, and I'm going to pass on some of that information to you. Take it with a grain of salt. This is sort of my experience. Granted, it's only been about a year since I've been doing this, so there are people who've been doing it for years and years, and there's salty dogs, man. They are crushing it every time. One of the biggest factors that you can sort of surmise a level of success from is the table fee. Table fee, obviously, is what you pay in order to secure your 8x8 or 10x10 space where you can sell your goods. Now, as you can imagine, a lot of people may believe that having a smaller table fee is the best thing to do and to go for those and as many of those as you can. To some extent, that is very true, especially when you're starting out and you're trying to develop your sales chops. I say go for the smaller little markets. They tend to have very small table fees. You can find them as low as $15 to about $40. 40 is a little bit on the higher end of those little beginner markets. However, you have to understand that the lower the table fee, there's usually a reason for that. One of the early markets that I had done was a small $25 table fee, and I thought it was like a good idea. However, it was outdoors. It was in the middle, actually the end of November, beginning of December. And as you can imagine, trying to pull people off the street to stop and look at your stuff, it was really tough. It was really hard. So nonetheless, it started to rain. I had luckily had a tent, so I put that up, and from that point on, it was a bit easier, but at the same time, a lot of people are just trying to get from point A to point B. They're trying to hit the subway. They're trying to get to their cars. It was a mess. Luckily, I did end up selling about $50 worth of merchandise there. After that, I went to another convention type thing, and it was an outdoor lot, and it was just ridiculous. There was about a $40 table fee, which was not bad, but at the same time, this location was atrocious. It was unbelievable that they would even charge this much for the space because it was completely hidden by tree lines. You were completely surrounded by trees. There's tons of traffic going by. Nobody knows that we're there. And there was a shopping center that should have been aware of what was going on just a little bit up, but yet again, we were secluded from everybody. From the get-go, this was completely obvious that all of the vendors, including the organizers, they were all little buddies. They all were just trading stuff with each other and not interested in actually making sales. I still did it. I did it again. I did it 6 months later, and it was the same thing. There's just these dopey vendors selling their dopey books to each other. It made no sense. And everybody was buddy. Everybody was like, oh, did you check out the dedication to my book? I dedicated it to you. Now, did you see the new toys I got? I'm going to give you some new toys because of that dedication. It was just ridiculous. Again, it was a learning experience, low table fee, and it just was in a bad spot. Location is key. Now, I did do the first market again that was in the end of November. They were really cool, and they sort of actually are pretty organic with their information that they get from the vendors. And they said, you know what, maybe the beginning of December and in November is a bad time. So what they did was they had their market at the end of September, early October. It was a beautiful day. Absolutely sold a ton. It was incredible. Weather is a big, big factor. And again, that was maybe like a $30 table fee. I ended up making more money on that than I did at any other show. It was fantastic. On the other end of that whole spectrum, there was another outdoor market in April. $150 table fee. To me, that was outrageous. I couldn't believe it. I never even heard of this thing. But I decided to call a local printmaker who I know that does do these little shows in town. And to get her opinion, she said, absolutely do it. Like, you will sell a ton. I wish I could do it this year. I couldn't. I'm going to be out of town. But definitely, if you have the time, you should do it. So I was like, okay, I'll do it. And $150 is a bit high. So what I did was I got a friend of mine who has a knitting business, and she does fantastic little caps. Said, hey, you want to do this together? We'll split the table fee. It's a pretty big space. It's about 10 foot by 10 foot. We'll get 2 tables, one for you, one for me. So she agreed, $75 down the middle. This market opened at 11 a.m. And according to my billing information, I made my first sale at 11:03. It was that quick, all day selling, did fantastic. I would say that was the most profitable show I did, but it actually wasn't due to the high table fee. It only got edged out by the other one I did outdoors in the heart of Arlington. That being said, I also had another book on the market, so I went from having 3 pieces that I could sell to 4. Therefore, I had a 33% chance of making a sale due to that additional book. Now, one thing I wanted to make very clear is that while you are there at the market and you're just starting out, or even if you're not just starting out, one of the most important things you can do is get people's email addresses, and you are then putting it together in your mailing list. Your mailing list is so important, it's unbelievable that it's not stressed more. So people are looking at your stuff, they're obviously interested. Maybe they don't want to purchase anything at that point, and that's fine, but you could also say, hey, you know what, if you sign up for my mailing list, I can then get you some sales on upcoming events, or just discount codes, this, that, whatever. Just say it anyway, even if you have no plan on doing that. Get that email address, build up that whole mailing list, and just keep going. After the first event that I did, which was not all that profitable, I ended up having my mailing list go from 12 people all the way to 35. Now, it doesn't seem that much, but that was a huge increase. I started this company with literally nobody in my contact list and started to slowly build it. Now, I don't know, it's like 80, 90 people, because every little show I do, I get people to write down their email address, and I just automatically throw them into my mailing list. Now, this story coming up is maybe the most impactful thing that's happened to me in the last year, and it just happened a couple of weeks ago. There was a guy who had such a niche book that he was selling that it was almost impossible to imagine anybody buying it. It was one niche thing combined with another niche thing, and yet he was doing incredibly well. He was doing very well. He was making tons of sales, and he's one of these guys. He's sort of like a big guy, and he's big and Mr. Salesman and perfect haircut. I think he had a Rolex Daytona, so clearly he's doing well. And he was making his rounds over looking at everybody's stuff. He comes to mine, and he starts flipping through my books, and he's just nodding, and he's like, okay, well, where's the cool stuff? And I was like, you kind of just flip through it. And he's like, no. This is good. The books are good, and you can make a good amount of money selling good stuff, but you make crazy money by selling cool stuff. Now let that sink in. That was one of the most profound things I'd heard in a while. And so he told me that his niche is his book was, and as well as he does selling it, which I clearly saw he was doing well, that he actually makes tons more money selling socks that have the book cover on it. It was just the weirdest thing, but yet I actually saw him selling these things. So he looked at my stuff, and he was like, there's literally no reason that you cannot have stuffed animals with your characters. These are your characters. They're clearly for kids. If you made a plushie, at the very least, stickers, you would make so much more money on the side because, A, you know what? If they don't want to pay $10 to $15 for a book, they'll certainly pay $3 for a sticker just to have the character. Sort of made a lot of sense. So I've got me some stickers now. Anybody that wants those stickers, just shoot me an email right here and I will get them out to you in the mail first thing in the morning. No charge. Well, that's about it for now, and I plan on doing a couple more videos based on what I've been up to in the last year or so. Thank you so much for joining me, and as always, be like water, my friends.